Hello, I'm going to go right to here. And this is just a little example I'm throwing in here just to sort of provoke some thought on your part and to hopefully tie some things together that you've been learning. And especially, in this chapter on thought, we're learning how humans aren't really good at rational thought, at deep rational thought. We like to use little shortcuts, heuristics, they're called. Quite often we think we're thinking very rationally. We have this illusion that we're being rational and logical in our thought, but really we're not. And, that's been okay, I guess. For thousands of years, it's kind of gotten us where we've gotten with these little shortcuts. But more recently, it's really led to a lot of problems. And I want to explain a little bit how it can lead to problems through an example. So I'm going to show you this example right out of Facebook. Okay, this is a post from a buddy of mine. We went to high school together, and I can tell you at the outset, this dude's an intelligent, smart guy, and he's generally a nice, good guy. We get along fine. We're good friends. There's nothing to not like about this person. But occasionally, I see them post stuff and share stuff that I'm like, why are you doing that? Do you not realize you're sort of contributing to disinformation that's potentially dangerous, and at the minimum is divisive, certainly divisive, and so. Let's go through this example. So here's the main post that was put out originally, and it was obviously from a beef-loving person comparing beef burgers to Beyond Beef burgers, and their claim here is beef burgers just contain one ingredient, beef. But these other ones, look at all of these ingredients, this Beyond Beef burger. And so the notion is that, I'll have the beef burger, please. It just has one ingredient. And so, what they're really implying here is that with a quick look at this, hey, the beef burger is the healthier choice. Right? That's the implication here. Now, one of the things from my perspective as somebody who cares a lot about animals and how they're treated, I would say, well, okay, the health issue is only one of the things related to eating meat, right? There's also the environmental issue. The greatest cause of environmental pollutants and stuff is factory farming, the thing that produces meat. The single best thing you could do for your environment is stop eating meat. But this isn't about the environment. Good and fine, well enough. It's also not about ethics, which is the other issue. The best day of a cow's life in a factory farm is the day of its death. It goes through a horrific life until that time. But the poster here is not worried about the life of the cow. They are not worried about global warming. They probably don't believe it's true, quite possibly. They're apparently worried about their health. And they're apparently worried about other people's health because they feel this need to share with other people this demonstration that eating beef is better than eating Beyond Beef. Okay, and what we see is your typical pylon, right? People communicate. So my buddy, his network, there's a lot of like-minded people in his network. That's how these networks work, and so you get a whole lot of support for he shares this. And here we go. Yes, it has dog food ingredients. I want to talk about all of these. Let's think about the arguments. Okay, it has dog food ingredients. Sheep food. Okay, sheep food. An awful lot of extracts, acid, starch, bamboo cellulose doesn't sound like something I'm going to eat. This one's a little bit more reasonable, I'll argue. But let's, I wouldn't feed this shit to my dog. Let Bill Gates eat it, sum it up nicely. So, of course, we have to have the Bill Gates because all of these things come back to the conspiracy theories that this group so loves and cherishes. Okay, let's just walk through the logic. Step one. The basic logic here seems to be that food with more ingredients are more dangerous for your health than food with fewer ingredients, right? That's what they're kind of saying. Hey, look at all these ingredients. This has just one. And so by that logic, eating a fresh garden salad with all sorts of nuts and fruits and vegetables, that's dangerous because there's lots of ingredients. Much more dangerous than, say, eating the same amount of pure sugar. One ingredient, right? My point here is, hey, it's not about the number of ingredients. It's about what they actually represent. Is beef a good, healthy thing to eat? Are these things unhealthy things to eat? It's not about the number, okay? So hopefully you'll give that, and that's one of the big issues here. Let's kind of go on here. This dog food stuff. What are they starting? Where are they going with this? Dog food is unhealthy, much more unhealthy than, say, eating chips and drinking soda. That's the implication here, is that, oh, it's in dog food. Well, we're talking about health, so I guess that's a bad thing. So dog food must be unhealthy. In fact, many dog foods are formulated to be highly nutritious. And yes, they sometimes contain beef as well. So beef is found in dog food. So, that logic alone is like, if it's in dog food, it's bad. Okay. Imagine something like salt. Salt's in everything. Sugar's in everything. I'm sure it's in your dog food, and I'm sure it's in your food. Oh, there's ingredients in your food that's in dog food. So, that sort of, so this is an alarmist kind of thing. It's an emotional play because the idea of eating dog food seems emotionally wrong. But that's all they're doing here is playing on emotions. This is not logic. This is not rational thought, right? Let's do one more. If any food contains an ingredient also found in dog food, then that food is not to be trusted, right? So that's the sort of notion. So when we think, okay, what have they actually said of substance here in terms of this comparison of beef versus the Beyond Beef burger? Well, they said there's more ingredients in the Beyond Beef burger. Yeah, so what? They said some of the ingredients in the Beyond Beef burger are also in dog food. Yeah, so what? None of that says anything, and yet it's being shared and resonated, and there's a problem to that. Okay, but before we get to the problem, let's just get to the facts, and let's just say what always needs to be said over and over again. Oh shoot, this isn't unveiling the way I want it to. Sorry, let me just take a second. Well, at least for this one, to have this one come up. Okay, good. There we go. This is where science comes in, right? If you really want to know, should I be worried about eating certain things? What are the health risks? You don't go to Facebook. You don't listen to some dude from your school that used to go and thinks they know suddenly, what's right or what's not. You go to Google Scholar, you do some searching, and if you can find especially a meta-analysis. So what's a meta-analysis? A meta-analysis is a study that looks at a bunch of other research studies and brings all of those results together. And this is a meta-analysis on the different food groups, the different things you can eat, and the risk those have of cause mortality. So just all cause mortality. So they're not caring how people die here. This isn't dying of cancer, dying of whatever. It's saying dying. So if you eat food from different food groups, how does that impact your probability of dying? Okay. And we've got a whole bunch of scientists here working together. The American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, very good journal, does full peer review. We can trust this. Okay, what does it say? Well, here's the whole stuff there, and I'm going to highlight part of it, but actually this is pretty readable. So basically what it's saying is if you eat more whole grains, vegetables, fruits, nuts, or fish, I don't eat fish either, but that's for ethical reasons, the risk of all-cause mortality decreased. So you eat these things, you live longer, okay? Higher intake of red meat, aka beef, and processed meat was associated with an increased risk of all-cause mortality in a linear dose-response meta-analysis. So what that means, linear dose-response, that means the more you eat, the sooner you die. Very straightforward, okay? A clear indication of non-linearity was seen for the relationships with vegetable, fruit, and dairy and all-cause mortality. So that implies sort of the non-linearity is kind of a slope up this way. So if you just eat a little bit more, you got to eat quite a bit. And when you eat quite a bit, then you really start to get the kick in of that. So just eating a few fruits and vegetables isn't going to do you a whole lot. Optimal consumption of risk-decreasing foods resulted in... So let's just... I'm going to blow this up here because it's right here. This is the part I want you to see. So optimal consumption of risk-decreasing foods results in a 56% reduction of all-cause mortality. If you eat the right foods, you will live 50% longer. That's living to 60 versus living to 90. That's what we're kind of talking about here. whereas consumption of risk-increasing foods is associated with a twofold increase. So if you eat a lot of that beef, you're going to have twice the likelihood of dying younger. A twofold increased risk of all-cause mortality. That's what you're doing. You're doubling your risk of death by eating beef. Okay? This is the facts. This is the rational analysis. This is people who really looked at data and came to a conclusion. This is people just spouting stuff that doesn't make any sense. Okay, fine. Well, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't have any logic. It makes emotional sense. They're making an emotional plea here to you. Why is this dangerous when an emotional plea flies in the face of data and science and fact? Well, it's dangerous because of this sort of notion, that we know. People say, I want the truth, I'm going to do my own research, and they go search for things they already believe in because that makes them feel good. That's called confirmation bias. We know it's true, it happens to all of us. But the question is, where do you start believing something? How do you start? So let's say that post, let's say you never actually thought about Beyond Beef and how they compare. And so you see that post. Now, I've argued the people in that post do not think, are not showing any evidence of rational thought, that it's an emotional plea. This is the problem. When you read it, you're probably not going to engage in deep rational thought. It takes a lot of time to really think, hey, wait a minute, let me go to Google Scholar and see if what these people are talking about is true. So we tend to look at them quickly and then scroll by. Okay, but here's the problem with that. It's something called the mere exposure effect. And it says the more times you see something, the more likely you are to believe it's true. This is one of those shortcuts that our brain takes. If it hears something a lot or sees something a lot, it believes it's true. And that's why the sharing of social media and the sharing of emotional messages that claim to make some rational point that they do not make is dangerous. Because if you see that over and over and over again, you just start to believe it's true. And then you're in the supermarket and you're like, I wouldn't buy that Beyond Beef stuff. Why? I don't know. It's not healthy, And so we just get this feeling from seeing these posts over and over again when people like my friend share it. And they don't seem to be bothered by the fact that they're sharing something that clearly has no logical basis to it, nor that they're sharing something that's promoting, that one ingredient. Hey, beef only has one ingredient. Yeah, it's the ingredient that kills you. That's the ingredient it has. Woohoo! That little factoid was left out of that post, but it could result in a bunch of people staying firm in their, dedication to eating beef. And that can be harmful to them. And this is how the human mind, gets things messed up and wrong sometime. Okay, so what's the point from all this for all of you guys? Become more savvy. When you're scrolling through social media, and you see stuff, ask yourself, first of all, is this a logical, rational argument, or is it an emotional plea? Are they saying things like, there's ingredients in dog food? That's an emotional plea, right? That's just trying to get you stirred up. That's what almost every one of these conspiracy type things do. They start with some emotionally jarring thing to kind of to get your limbic system engaged and to get your frontal lobes shut down, because there's no logic or rationality in there for your frontal lobes. They're just trying to expose you to an argument over and over and over. The more you get exposed to it, the more you believe it. So be savvy, be aware of what's going on when you're scrolling through your social media, and be a good consumer, because it's serious. I mean, it's causing divisions among people. It's causing all sorts of problems, and sometimes it's giving rise to violence or giving rise to damage, as it does in cases like this. Okay, that's my example. Bye bye.